On the first day in Nanjing, we're visiting Fuzi the Confucian Temple. I'll be using the GX8 with 50mm equivalent lens. Let's walk around and take some photos. What I'm doing here is that I'm holding the Olympus EM5 Mark II with my left hand for recording the video, and GX8 with the 25mm 1.4 in my right hand for taking photos. Before I came here, I got a friend who would take videos for me, but when I met him, I saw he got very shaky hands that even the Olympus in-body stabilization can't handle. I first thought he got Parkinson's, but he told me he's dating. He got an app in his phone that when he shakes his phone, the app could match him with a female who uses the same app and shaking at the same time. So I end up DIY all by myself. The Confucian Temple is located in southern Nanjing on banks of the Qinghai River. Over 1,000 years since it was first built around 1034, the place has been damaged during different wars, reconstructed and renovated several times. There are still buildings here which have hundreds of years of history, which reminds me that back in Melbourne there was a time I was stopped by a security person in university who told me there are something made by design students that have copyright, so I'm not allowed to take photos. It's a big irony that I can take photos and videos of buildings here that carry a lot of traditional design elements and have 100 years of history, but some design students are worried as if everyone in the world wants to copy their work. I've tried different focal lengths for street photography. I found 28 a bit wider and 50 a bit limiting. 35 is the balance between the two. It's neither too wide that your eyes and brain can't capture, or too narrow that limits your vision. It's the classic focal length for street over the past few decades. I've also seen people say that 28 is the new 35 because the streets today are narrower and there are more people on the street. So a focal length wider than the classic 35 is more practical, which makes sense. But I still like 50 because there's a shy factor that prevents me from being close to the subject, which is required by 28 or even 35. Having said this, it sounds like 50 is used purely as a petty lens in order to keep a distance from the subject. This is not exactly true. Other benefits of 50 is that it forces you to compose your photo by looking at the scene. In other words, it frames what your eyes could see. It's well known that Cartier-Bresson mostly used 50mm lens, but some people may not know that he was a painter before photography. I guess the composition in painting more or less affected how he took photos later. Prime lens forces you to compose your frame. People say that you have to zoom with your foot. I'd rather say you have to compose with your foot. There's a subtle difference. I stopped here and went to a Cantonese restaurant to have lunch. I ordered a tall glass of melon juice with the assumption that the melon in the menu was honey melon, but got a glass of bitter melon in the end. After lunch, we went to the next place. It's interesting that the old streets are not dedicated tourist place or something separate from the city. It sits just within the city as part of it. Now we've arrived at Laomandong, the old gate east. They rebuilt some of the old streets with the same design to match what was here hundreds of years ago. Unlike Melbourne, where only heritage buildings are preserved, and some old buildings are demolished with only front wall left, surrounded by modern apartments cheaply built for investment. The shops along the streets are worth visiting. They got lots of interesting stuff. Now I'm in one of the shops. Lots of stuff here. But just when I wanted to look into details, I realized they don't allow photography inside, so I went out. The staff didn't stop me though, even when he saw me carrying 2 cameras and obviously recording something. Maybe he's an intern, or just don't care. I've been here, so is my dog. One technique in street photography is to anticipate a shot. There's a model of a craftsman with a hammer making a bucket, a model of a kid looking at him and confused. A little girl is running into the scene and also got confused. Sigh. I don't have enough depth of field to get everything in focus. I should have changed the camera settings beforehand. Here you see why having dedicated custom settings are important, and why I should concentrate on taking photos instead of recording video at the same time. It's approaching sunset and I'm really tired of holding two cameras and walking slowly like a castrated man in ancient China, so I decided to only take photos. The place gives me a smell of life and a breathing of culture. When I first came to Melbourne, the city gave me a refreshing look and feel. But having lived there for several years, then come back to the old place, it's even more refreshing. It stays at where it was, doesn't want to change or catch up with anything. The life here is slow and relaxed compared to other parts of the city. It may not be as convenient as a modern city where people spend their life trying to make a better life. This place makes you ask, what really is life?